Ladies and gents, welcome. We're going to go over the new best loadouts in Warzone after the Season 6 update, and this is going to be based off of actual stats and not just me saying something's meta because I feel like it. We've been testing stuff all day, and we have the confirmed what is the meta. So there are two new guns coming this season, the DTIR, I don't know how to say it, 30-06 battle rifle, which is very, very meta, and then the Kastov LSW light machine gun, which is okay. I don't think it's going to quite be meta. I'm not going to go through every single buff and nerf here. Basically, all of these ARs got buffs to their damage range. The only one I really want to point out that was substantial is the STG got damage range and nerfs, and then also damage nerfs, where they actually the damage locations actually got nerfs. Now, True Game Data had tweeted that these changes to the actual damage doesn't seem like they've gone live yet in game. However, Call of Duty then tweeted that some of the changes from today's update were not yet live. So I think this change is coming just maybe tomorrow or something, but I don't know. Basically, all of the MW2 battle rifles got recoil buffs to where they have less recoil, and then the Tac-V got a buff to its ADS, and then all of these also got improvements to their firing aim stability. So I don't think any of these are going to be meta, but they'll be a little bit better to use. Not a whole lot going on in the SMG meta here. Not much is going to be changing. These AMR and HRM9 TTKs are not going to change. Basically, all these guns just got some small damage range buffs. And then they did hit the RAL LMG conversion kit with a really hard nerf. However, they tweeted that this one is not yet live. So if you want to use it one last time before it is no longer broken, now's your chance. All right, now let's discuss the long range meta first. So we spent all today getting our website GGs.ai updated. In case you don't know about our website, this is an AI-powered meta finder that takes stats from the game, uses AI to tell us what are the best loadouts in the game. The SCG is still coming in at number 1, with the DTIR at number 2. But honestly, I would probably put the DTIR at number 1. The reason the DTIR is ranking lower is because it has a very, very slow fire rate, and our algorithm just does not like how slow that is. So as long as you're okay with that really slow fire rate, it's going to be probably the number 1 gun right now, because its TTK is insane, which I'll show you in 1 second. Then rounding out the rest of the meta list, Taq-eradicator, BP50, and BAL27 are also sneaking in there. And we have a lot of different A tier options in here. The new Kastov LSW is also ranking A tier. And if you're unfamiliar with our site, if you hit the drop-down arrow here, it's gonna show more builds here. And I'm gonna add one of these builds in here for us to compare. If we keep scrolling down here, we can look at a TTK chart. All right, so first I wanna compare the D tier in blue to the STG in orange. You're gonna see the D tier is just insane. It's got crazy good TTKs, and it's pretty much going to be the fastest TTK gun at all ranges in the game for the most part. Its only downside is a really, really slow fire rate, but this thing also has next to no recoil. The new Kastov LSW is just okay. It's got pretty good TTKs at long range. It's got a really fast fire rate. I think it'll be an okay option, but I think what's better about it is there's actually a Tac Stance build with a special attachment that basically turns it into like that chainsaw Tac Stance LMG. Taq-eradicator at long range is really, really good. So for like a big map gun, I think the Taq-eradicator is awesome. BAL27 is a personal favorite of mine, and it's actually got a lot better TTKs than the STG does, but it's got a little bit more recoil. So I love the BAL personally. It's one of my favorites, but because of the recoil, it doesn't rank as highly. There's so many options we could put in here, like the number 5, number 6 spot. MTZ556 I think is a great option, but there's a ton of other really good options too. One of the really cool stats that we have on the website, if you want to just like a really simplified answer of what's the best TTK, we have something called weighted expected TTK. It just takes everything in for account, and it says what's the time to kill that you're going to achieve in most situations. You're going to see the D tier is just crazy good. You can also do things like add in aim down sight speed, add in sprint to fire, all that. But even if we do that, the D tier is still really, really good. And if you keep scrolling down here, you're going to get even more stats to look through. The D tier on the far left, the one thing I want to point out, like I said, is the only bad thing about it is it has a really slow fire rate. But everything else is high green. That recoil rating is a 4.9 out of 5. So pretty much D tier is going to be your best gun right now in Season 6. All right, shifting over to the close range meta. So I've got close range SMG and ARs toggled here. Not a whole lot has changed here this update. Static still coming in at number 1, which this was by far the most popular SMG used in World Series of Warzone. The only thing that I think is a little bit inaccurate on our site is that the Superi is ranking A tier. I would personally say the Superi is coming up higher than probably like 2 or 3 at least. We do have a huge revamp coming to our website, and that's going to make some changes to our algorithm as well. So that'll be around by the time Black Ops 6 comes out. So very, very excited to share with you guys that. And then for the rest of A tier, a lot of other options in here. I think the good thing about the SMG meta is that a lot of these are viable option, and the gap between these is not huge. I think, you know, unfortunately, not a lot's going to change, but you have a lot of options you can use. So really quick here, looking at the time to kill chart, You're going to see the MCW in red is one of the best options here. Now, this WSP9 is a little bit misleading because on paper, its TTK is great. However, it has an open bolt delay of 50 milliseconds. So in reality, if we change this to expected TTK, it falls back quite a lot because of that open bolt delay. Then the Superi is realistically coming in at the second fastest. And then we have both the static and striker kind of in there. The reason the static ranks #1 is because it is by far the easiest gun here to drop its TTK if you just hit high damage areas. So if you just hit all chest in one headshot on the static, that TTK drops way down to like 0.58 seconds, which makes it the fastest. So if you're a higher skilled player, which is why in World Series of Warzone, everybody ran the static is probably the best SMG because it also has insanely good mobility and handling. Another thing to point out though is damage per mag, and you're gonna see that the striker has amazing DPM, WSP9 great as well, but guns like the MCW in red have very low DPM. So that means it'll struggle in game modes like trios or quads because you're gonna have to be reloading more often to fight multiple people. But when we look at that weighted expected TTK, again, the MCW looks awesome. And again, this is one where the static is probably, it could be a lot higher. It just depends what damage areas you're hitting. And then scrolling down here, looking at some more of the stats, a lot of these guns are very equal. I think the big thing is that the mobility and overall handling of the static is just top notch. Whereas some of these other guns, you're gonna see they're a little bit slower handling, or they might have bad fire rates, things like that. The static is just kind of the most well-rounded, which is why overall the static will probably be the best SMG. Alrighty, let's go through some builds though. So coming in at number 5, we've got the MTZ 556. There are so many different potential number 5 options, but MTZ did get a buff here. With the Quartermaster, this thing can be quite low recoil. If you don't mind the iron sights, you can also do a lot of cool things with this build. You can either make it insanely low recoil and put either the Bruin Heavy or the Paracord. Paracord to be a little bit more aggressive, Bruin Heavy to be even lower recoil. Very easy to use gun. Or if you're a little bit more aggressive, higher skilled player, you put on something like High Grain, and all of a sudden this build has still low recoil, but now great bolt velocity and insanely good range, especially if that damage range buff. This on Resurgence will be a phenomenal option. Then we've got the MCW Conversion kit here. The only downside to this gun is that the handling is so-so. With this build, you get a sprint to fire of 129 milliseconds, which is still solid, but it's going to be a little bit slower than some of the other SMGs, but the really fast TTK makes up for it. Now, if you don't like the iron sights on this one, you can either swap the paracord grip or the rear grip for an optic here. I really like the Quarters Classic Reflex, but you can go Jack Glassless, whichever 1X you like is perfectly fine. And then I also want to remind you guys that the Kar 98 is still extremely good. It is still a one-shot headshot up to that first damage range of about like 70 meters or so. So if you are a good sniper, the Kar is still a phenomenal option. Coming in at number 4, we've got the Taq-eradicator LMG. If you play big map, you want something with insane bullet velocity, 1300 meters per second bullet velocity. The Tac is low recoil, really easy to use. The only tricky thing about this gun is that it has that faster fire rate that slows down. So you got to be careful about trying to really hit your shots in that first part when you're shooting the gun. If you don't like the iron sights on this one, you can just swap high velocity, put on the Jack Glassless, and this build will still have insanely good bullet velocity. At our number 4 SMG, we've got the WSP9. A lot of different ways we can build this. This setup here with the Jack Slash underbarrel will give us a lot of good mobility. I think with that Quartermaster suppressor, that'll be plenty of recoil control, so we can max that mobility after. So we go his short light barrel, Jack Slash, because this one's going to give us a ton of movement speed buffs, but also help our vertical recoil control. 40 round mag, and then an optic. If you do have this special fossilized blueprint, you can take off an optic because this gives you kind of like a clear, invisible iron sight. You can go super mobility build and go no stock, or you can do much lower recoil build with the WSP Classics factory stock, and this is very low recoil. If you want to make this more of like a sniper support here, very easily, you could just do that. You could take off the underbarrel, paracord, put on an optic, and then this will give you a very good sniper support. Thank you, Call of Duty, for updating the playlist for the 100th time. Coming in at number 3, the BAL 27. This is a personal favorite of mine. I actually prefer this gun over the STG personally. As long as you have good recoil control, this thing is amazing. Quartermaster suppressor, crown barrel, high velocity, not high grain on this one. For some reason, high velocity works different on the BAL, and it does not penalize our damage range, but it gives us a huge 30% buff to our range, or to our bullet velocity. Running the iron sights on this helps a lot because we can use that high velocity. If you don't like the iron sight, take off high velocity and put on something like a Jack Glassless, or if you have really good recoil control, you can take off the stock for a Jack Glassless as well. And then probably my personal favorite SMG as of late, although it's not really considered to be the #1 SMG, is the Striker. And this no stock build has insane mobility, but surprisingly pretty low recoil. So Quartermaster, short barrel, Jack Slash, again, for that more movement speed, 48, and then no stock. If this is a little bit too wobbly, easily just swap Jack Slash for the paracord. This is still pretty low recoil. But if you want more of like a sniper support, take off the no stock, just put an optic back on, you're good to go. You can even swap this to one of like the long barrels, like the Recon, and then now you have a ton of range, great sniper support setup. Coming in at number 2, we have the good old STG. This is the exact same build that basically everybody ran in World Series of Warzone. It'll still be a great gun, but it did get a small nerf in today's update. If you are a very aggressive player, especially if you're playing Resurgence, one build that's a lot of fun is take off the stock and put on high grain here. This is actually the highest rated build that our algorithm spits out. It's a little bit harder to use though, as it does get a little bit bouncy with the recoil. And then if you want even lower recoil, you can swap the long barrel for the heavy barrel, but you're going to get a little bit less buffs to your range and bullet velocity, but it's still a great option. And then my number 2 SMG is going to be the Superi. Now, if you're a little bit more of like an average skill level player, I think this is actually probably better than the static because you don't have to worry about hitting headshots. It's going to have a faster chest and combination TTK than the static. So again, Quartermaster Suppressor, as you see, this is like a staple of all of my builds because it just helps our recoil so much and also keeps us suppressed. So then we can kind of maximize movement. We can go Jack Slash, the Rescue 9 stock for a ton of movement speed, high grain because this has been hit with a few damage range nerfs in past updates, and then the 40 round mag. If you feel like your hit reg is bad on this gun, to just take off the high grain and then put on an optic and it will feel much, much better. If you want a little bit lower recoil, just swap the slash for the paracord. And finally, coming in at our number 1 rated loadout this season for season 6. Half of you probably skipped right here to the video, so make sure you go like and comment, subscribe, and do all the things because you skipped. Quartermaster Suppressor, per usual, again, going to help our recoil a ton on this and keep us suppressed. X10 long barrel. There's a few barrel options here. I think it's going to be by far the best option because it helps our range so much. There are some others that help recoil, but this gun has so little recoil that I don't think we need to do it. So you're better to just max out that range and bullet velocity. Then we're going with the high grain to give us better bullet velocity and range, 40 round mag, and this is plenty because this is a very slow shooting gun. And then the Jack Glassless optic. Now, if you're a very aggressive player, these iron sights are not bad at all. You could very well go iron sights on this, and then the Rifleman tuner stock for very low recoil, or the demo nimble stock for a little bit better mobility but still a lot of recoil control. And I'll show you guys here in the firing range really quick. This thing like doesn't move. It is just crazy. This thing is going to be a problem. And if you want an optic but low recoil as well, just take off high grain for Jack Glassless, and this will be kind of that low recoil setup. One honorable mention I want to point out is there is a new muzzle, compensator, the caster compensator, and this thing gives insane horizontal recoil control, 34%. Whereas the Quartermaster gives you 23. So definitely going to be worth trying out, but I think the Quartermaster will probably be better since it doesn't hurt our range and it keeps us suppressed. And then for the number 1 SMG is going to be the static still. This is going to be more of your mobility build, more geared for kind of above average level players here. Quartermaster, auger, a light barrel, Jack Slash for that movement, Jack Glassless. Now I run the Jack Glassless and not a regular optic on this one because this gun, it doesn't seem like it has the best firing aim stability. So I really like getting that bonus on the Jack Glassless. And then finally, the light stock. If this is a little bit too wobbly for you, we can easily just swap the slash for the paracord. And if we want even lower recoil, we can very easily swap the light stock for the Guardian stock. If you're a mouse and key player, I like this build a lot. It's really, really easy to use. And then also an honorable mention is going to be the new LMG, but in Tac Stance here. This new attachment allows you to run really quickly while tac stancing. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of like that chainsaw LMG that was in Warzone 1. So this is going to be the build for that. It's this Bracefire HC grip is what allows you to tac stance really fast. And then we kind of just build it for mobility. The only thing that's I think up for grabs is this laser helps tac stance but is not visible. But if you don't care about the laser being visible, then put on the SL Razor Hawk and this will give you even tighter tac stance but this laser is very, very visible. Also, guys, this is a sneak peek at what our updated version of GGs.ai is going to look like. We're still working on this, so this is not ready to go live, but it's going to have a very different feel. In the create build, the weapons page, all that is going to function way smoother. So we're really, really excited to share with you guys. But otherwise, thank you for watching, y'all. Appreciate you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and we'll see you in the next one.